And we are going.
Hello, I'm Haley Finn. I'm the Associate Artistic Director at the Playwrights Center. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm here with, and hopefully you guys can introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Julia Brown. I'm the Artistic Programs Manager at the Playwright Center. I use she, her pronouns. I am currently wearing a red and black buffalo check sweater. I have short red hair and glasses. And I am calling in from Minneapolis, which is the unceded lands of the Dakota people and also the Anishinaabe people.
Good morning, Patricia Garza, Director of Programs and Engagement at NET. So excited to be in space with my colleagues here at the Playwright Center and to have folks watching the recording or here with us live. I use they, them pronouns, but I also accept she, her, hers. I'm a Latinx human with big cat-eye glasses and very faded red dyed hair. Has not happened for quite some time. And I'm calling in from Los Angeles, which is the Tongva Quiche land here in California. So very excited to be here today, and I'll pass it back to Haley.
Great. And I wear glasses, and I have long, very long now because of the pandemic, auburn hair. And I'm usually in Minneapolis on Dakota land, but currently in Vermont on Anishinaabe land. And we just really want to welcome you, those who are here with us currently live and those who will be watching this recording. Thank you very much for your interest in this program. I wanted to just give you a little bit of a background on this program. So we've been doing this for a number of years now, and it really started off as a conversation that I had with Mark Valdez, who was the artistic director of NET at that time, talking about just desires that ensembles had and desires that playwrights had. And I was having so many conversations with playwrights saying, gosh, I just wish I could create work from the ground up, be in a room with an ensemble and just make something together, as opposed to sitting in my desk at home alone, writing and then handing off a play. And then we were hearing from the people from NET that many ensembles were hoping to work with playwrights to bring someone in really focused on text and could offer that experience in the room. So that is sort of the genesis of how this grant came to be. And one of the things that we're really focused on in this grant is a creative exchange, essentially between the ensemble and a playwright, and really thinking about what that might look like for you, both for you as a playwright and for you as an ensemble, how you can benefit from each other and what you might learn from each other. So it's less focused on production and more focused on exchange of ideas and development, especially as we know that $4,000 is really seed money potentially for a larger project, or just to start or think about or generate ideas for a project. So those are some of the things to keep in mind if you're thinking about this program and if you feel like it's a good fit for you. We hope that you will. And I'm going to turn things over to Julia, who's going to talk a bit more about the process of applying. So Julia, I'm going to hand things your way.
Yeah, so as you saw on that last slide, the funds and what they can be used for is pretty open. It can be travel, it can be stipends, it can be supplies, space rental, things like that, to start these experiments together. So we will be, after this session today, we'll be sharing the slides and the recording with the eligible ensembles and the eligible writers. And then you have a couple of weeks until March 11th, which is 2 weeks from tomorrow, to let either Patricia or myself know that you're interested in applying. All you have to do is drop us a line and say, hey, here's my name, here's my contact information. You don't need at this point to have an idea of who you're going to work with. There's a lot of time left in this process to figure that out. So about a week after you identify your interest, we will be sending you the RFP, which has more details about how to put a proposal together, what exactly we're asking for, as well as the names, websites, and contact information for all of the interested parties. So ensembles, you'll see a whole list of playwrights with their names, their emails, and a link to their profile page on our website where you'll see their bio, links to their personal websites, things like that. And playwrights, you'll see a list of all the interested NET ensembles with their main contact person and their website. So you can kind of really be digging into learning about each other, seeing past work, and then reaching out and actually getting in touch and having conversations. So you have about 2 months to actually put the proposals together, which is intentionally a long period of time, which we'll talk about a little bit later. We kind of call it the like speed dating or matchmaking time in a sense of getting to know one another, and then putting this proposal together, which will be due May 13th. And then over the next about month or month and a half is when the decisions will be made and everybody will be notified. So you can see here just a list of the past projects that we've done over the past 11 years. So it might be a good idea to take a look at kind of who some of these ensembles are and who some of these writers are, and see kind of, this has been pretty much runs the gamut between a very early stage, experimentation that was a great learning experience, but didn't end up in a full production, to things that actually became full productions.
Yeah, and I would just jump in to say that one of the great things through this process is that even people who didn't receive this grant, it started a great collaboration, a good conversation that went on to either their own projects or sometimes applying again another year for this opportunity. So it's a great way to make new connections and meet new artists.
Absolutely. I'm going to toss it back to you, Haley, to talk about the match.
Oh, the match. Great. Well, I would say that a good match is one where you find that there's some synergy, and that can be around, sometimes it's around an idea or a theme or a topic or something. It's just like, oh, I really want to learn this. And the other person's like, well, I really want to learn this. Oh, those are the things, let's do that together. I feel like I could really learn from you. So what inspires you? I'd say, you're going to get a chance to look at each other's bios and websites and material, but it's really that conversation that's going to help you identify and say, yes, this is really a good match and we have something to work on. Because this is a project that really spans about a year and no longer than that, just making sure that it's realistic, that what you put forward in that time frame makes sense and seems possible. Obviously, with the pandemic and COVID, we don't know how things are going to pan out. So some, remote conversations are also can be mapped into your plan as well. And then I would say making sure you have those good conversations that can sometimes be hard about credit and ownership on the front end, because we certainly think that that's best practice for collaboration, to really understand how you might want to move forward together with this project, and having those conversations in place on the front end, I think, is really helpful. Obviously, you'll want to create a budget and a timeline and a schedule, but also really thinking about those working methods, who's responsible for what, and also like, how do you want to work together? What is exactly going to be your creative and artistic process through this time period? And once you have found the right match, then that's when you'd be putting together this proposal. And Patricia, were you going to speak a little bit about this section of the process?
Sure, I can definitely chime in here. So what we're asking is new for this year as well. So I just really wanted to underline this point. Obviously, a playwright-driven process, we need to see the written word as well. And so we want to prioritize that. But we also want to be cognizant that ensembles have lots of ways of expressing themselves and different accessibility needs to communicating their excitement around this partnership. And so merging those two ideas, we are asking for a narrative that has both input from the ensemble and playwright, which could be 2 pages of written text as is, or we could do 1-page written text and a 2 to 3 minute video. So that could look like the playwright and the ensemble in conversation on video. That could look like the playwright takes the 1 page of text and the ensemble takes the video. But we do ask that you collaborate. And so it's not creating in a silo, but it's really a collaborative proposal that is fed into one another. And then these confirmation letters are, again, just saying, yes, me, ensemble, I am excited. We are excited to work with this playwright, and playwright, I am excited to work with this ensemble. So it's really confirming the partnership. And then the program budget that Haley was referring to earlier. I don't know, Haley or Julia, if you have more to add in this area.
I think that's great. I think the project budget, just to say, can look different depending upon what your project is. Sometimes this grant covers the full project scope, and sometimes it is part of a larger project that's already, that you have a larger vision for and also have larger funding for. Either is fine, but we hope that the amount that we're giving is significant to the process, and that is really particularly focused on the front end of the process rather than the production element. Like, we're, again, really invested here in developing the connection, the ideas, the work, rather than production.
Yeah, and just going off of that, I would recommend that if this is a project that you say you talk to each other, get really excited about it, and the ensemble or the playwright says, hey, I actually have a lead on more funding, so we can make this a bigger project, to put those details in the project budget. So if it's like, this $4,000 grant would fund this part of it, and then you have a whole bunch of other stuff in your narrative, but it isn't explained where that money is coming from, that makes it a little bit difficult to evaluate kind of how realistic the project is. So definitely put those details in your budget if you have them. And like Haley said, this is really focused on kind of the front end. So applications that tend to be less successful are, we have already been working on this project for a while and we want to plug a playwright in close to the end. And we need the last, $4,000 for like the last bit of our production budget or something like that, to really be focused about kind of generating ideas and work together.
Great. Yeah. And speaking of $4,000, thank you, Julia, for that nice segue. So the funding is $4,000 to be split between the ensemble and the playwright. And again, just what we just discussed, based really on what the project budget that you propose together collaboratively. So that could be split in a number of different ways. And then that portion will be issued. So a portion of the $4,000 will be issued 30 days after signing the grant agreement. And the remainder will be held until completion of a final report, which we will send more detailed information on what that final report is after securing the partnership. But the end date will definitely be no later than June 30th. So kind of the project period ends on June 30th, 2022. I can't believe we're already saying 2022, but we are. And in addition to that, we are asking the playwright and the ensemble with an additional fee of $150 to create an article about the collaboration. So that way the Playwrights Center and NET can really issue those and share out with the field on their individual websites. And the final report, again, a narrative from the playwright. How did this go? What was learned? How was this relationship generated? A narrative from the ensemble. What was learned? How did we incorporate this into your collaborative practices, etc.? Maybe a long-term relationship that was established. That's the dream. And then, of course, the final project budget, really just speaking to the actuals that were spent on the initial proposed budget. So next steps. Yes. So for ensembles that are either listening to the recording or on the call, you can email me. You probably have already emailed me to get the Zoom link. So, and we are asking that to happen no later than March 11th. And you just email me your name, the main contact for the ensemble, and then wherever you would like the playwright to look in terms of learning about your work. So predominantly a website, if there's some really great YouTube channel that you have, if you don't have a website, or if there's a social media site that you keep updated. If you don't have a website, just let me know. And then Playwrights Center, they emailed Julia. So there's Julia's email there. And that again still is no later than March 11th.
Yes, and for Playwrights, we'll be using your primary email. So if there's a different one you'd like to use for this process, let me know. And we usually just link to your profile on the Playwright Center webpage so that we know everybody's got the information that's there. So if you haven't updated your bio in a while, it might be a great time to do that as well. I also just want to specify for Playwright Center, as you've seen in kind of the other information, this opportunity is open to current and former core writers of the Playwright Center. So just in terms of if you're talking to other colleagues who might be on a different fellowship or an affiliated writer from a different program, that this is specifically designed for and targeted for current and former cores. And now we're in the question section, and we had another friend. It looks like Darren joined us. Hello, Darren. We're so glad you're here. But if anyone has questions that have come up during the presentation, feel free to just pop in. Otherwise, you have my and Haley and Patricia's email on multiple slides, so you can feel free to reach out to us directly as well.
Otherwise, there's maybe 3 things I would just say, because I know one of the questions is often, well, what would make a successful proposal? So I'm pretending that question has been asked. And that I would say often as we're evaluating, we're looking at what is that relationship between the playwright and the ensemble as defined by the playwright and the ensemble? What do they really want to learn from each other? What do they feel like they can get out of this collaboration? That's really essential. So making sure that the playwright is speaking about what they're wanting to learn or what they appreciate about the ensemble, and vice versa, that the ensemble is really talking about what they want to learn, what they appreciate from the playwright. That's very important. Also being really clear about what you plan to do, obviously the narrative, what you're going to be exploring, how you're going to be working, and then making sure that your budget is realistic and fits the scope of what you have set out to do. And of course, you know, making sure that the ideas are just even more than well-formed. It's really making sure that you are on the same page around the ideas and the questions that you're going to be asking through your process. So making sure that you've already started the collaboration in the conversation that you're having. And again, this can be somebody that you've never met before you've had a phone conversation or Zoom conversation with them through this process. And we're hoping that this will create greater connections amongst playwrights and ensembles. That is the goal. Is there anything, Patricia or Julia, you want to add that might be a question that you sometimes get, or do you think we've covered?
Covered most. I mean, I wanted to just reiterate what you were saying earlier about the generative nature of the project is really exciting to us, and that would make the most successful proposals. But I do think if you know the playwright, that's not to say that you can't know them. So I also just wanted to clarify that you may have worked with them or heard about them or have had, you know, field conversations with them in the past. So it doesn't have to be a stranger. We're just saying that this particular project is going to be generative and new. So just wanted to kind of clarify
that. I do have a question. Hey, it's Darren. Sorry.
Darren, oh, I love questions. Thank you for asking one.
This, and you may have covered this. Apologies for being late. I came in from teaching. Is there a listing of? Patricia, your question raised a question. I was like, oh, I wonder if is there a listing of NET ensembles somewhere so that I can know who actually already, if an ensemble already is an NET member?
In terms of this grant, all writers are letting me know their interest, and ensembles are letting Patricia know their interest. And so
okay.
after you receive the RFP, you'll have a full list of everybody who's gung-ho about doing this thing, and it will include contact information and also a website or some other kind of reference to learn more about the ensemble and about the playwright.
Perfect. Okay. And I caught the tail end of that, but now thank you for that, because that makes me get it all together in my head. Yes. Perfect.
Yeah, and just to add to that, Darren, I'm putting in the chat the link to our member list. If there's somebody you want to poke to apply, please feel free to, and I can make that connection, because I do
great.
think people have lots of things going on, and if there's just an ensemble that you're like, I would love to work with this ensemble, I can always, see if they're interested in applying and make a pre-match conversation if that's exciting to you. So I just sent you the member list as well.
Perfect. Yes, I see it. Thank you. That is spot on, Patricia. Thank you.
Yeah.
And likewise, if NET member ensembles are like, oh, I really admire this person's work, I think they work with the Playwright Center, you can reach out to me and say like, hey, is Joe Schmo eligible for this program? And I can look up Mr. Schmo and let you know whether or not they'd be eligible.
I have a question about the anticipated applications from all the folks who might reach out to express interest. Do you have a sense of how many actual full applications you might receive?
It's usually fewer than initially put in an intent, but it kind of varies from year to year.
I would say in general, it's maybe about somewhere between 18 to 20 applications, I would say. Does that seem right, Julia? I think it's in that range, like 18 to 20.
Yeah,
years a little bit more, some years maybe a little bit less, but in the past number of years, it's been varying close to 20, I would say. So it's one of the great things about it is you're already kind of part of a smaller group by being part of NET and also part of the core writer program, so that it is very competitive and that the people in that group are already amazing artists. But if you put yourself forward, that there aren't thousands of people applying, that it's really an opportunity for this group of people. Does that help, Julia? Give you a framework?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Good.
Great.
All right. Well, if we don't have other questions, then I think we are in a good spot to end our meeting and our recording. Again, here are our main websites. If you want to learn a little bit more about the other organization, please do. And then we're going to be having this recording as soon as it's done doing its load thing, and our these slides as well that we'll share with everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
No, thank you guys. Thank you. Seriously.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
Really lovely to meet you, Darren. Great to have you here today.
Julia.
Stop recording.